Okay, Assalamualaikum and good day everyone. We will start with chapter 11. Our last topic for this semester is about psychological well-being and maladjustment at work. So, psychological well-being, or in other words, is also called psychological health. When we talk about workplace, we talk about psychological health or well-being at workplace. According to textbook and also according to common sense, it should be a necessary and most important criteria or criterions for employees and business or organizational performance. Because if employee having a problem or psychological having a problem regarding psychological well-being or having a psychological disorder, this can affect how their performance at work. Because if you are not well in terms of your psychological or in terms of your mental health and so on, this will affect the performance and eventually organizational performance. So, as a bit of introduction here, work is a purposeful and meaningful activities to fulfill physical and psychosocial needs. So, work is very important because it's actually is a source of our income. So this is considered as a central life interest. It's also considered as a central life interest, such as other things such as marriage, religion, and so on. Especially work, because we depend on the income that can get from work. So work become a central life interest of almost everyone. So work benefits or have advantages, especially in terms of income. Income is important for our survival. So this loss of work mean can or the what is meant here, loss through poor work experience, is if the work is not performed well, if employee cannot perform well in their work, they will lose this income. That's mean maybe the performance is not good, they will be depromoted or they will receive less salary and so on. So work actually can the income can be lost through poor work performance or especially unemployment. So without employment, so without work, we do not have income, or at least we do not have a stable income. So impaired psychological health, such as the example of impaired mean something wrong with our psychological health. So impaired psychological health, such as work stress. When we experience work stress, we experience some of the psychological problem. So work stress and others, such as decrease of self-concept and self-worth. So decrease of self-concept and self-worth mean we are feeling down, we are feeling vulnerable, we are feeling weak, we are feeling not really confident, we are depressed, and so on. So not only decrease in self-concept, self-worth, personal identity also, where we do not want to be associated with something that is not well. For example, if we experience impaired psychological health, or when we experience psychological problem, sometimes we do not really act like we used to be, like our normal person. So this can relate to personal identity, alienation, that's mean away from our original or our normal life, and also may experience some illnesses. So poor employees and organizational health can also have a carry over effects, can influence family, society, and country at large. So it is important to have psychological well-being, because psychological well-being will lead to organizational performance. But if employees experience psychological unwell or maladjustment or psychological problem at work, not only the performance of the employees will be affected, but also organizational performance also will directly affected. And if employees experience this psychological psychological problem is also influenced their families, affected their family also, because when they deal with the family, the family also will receive this kind of side effect of employees of their members, family members who experience this psychological problem, and the society also, and the country at large. So psychological health, in other words, is a psychological wellness or psychological well-being, is a multi-dimensional states and subjective and real experience. Subjective mean maybe different persons will experience this differently. Maybe those who have strong personality traits, they could be able to experience these psychological problems in a more positive way. For those who have not so strong psychological traits, will experience psychological problems in the negative way. So psychological health indicates one physical, intellectual, or social, or emotional, spiritual, ethics, and occupational attributes that are healthy. So these are actually psychological health are important because it's related to our fully functioning. If we have this psychological health or psychological well-being, we could function positively in terms of physical, in terms of intellectual, social, emotion, spiritual, ethics, and so on. So there are various definitions and criteria to indicate the psychological adjustment or psychological health or psychological well-being and so on. So in order to indicate whether someone is experiencing psychological adjustment or psychological well-being, we can detect if this person show no sign of mental disorder. So if their behavior is like a normal individual, there's no signs or symptom of mental disorder, so we can say that that person having a psychological adjustment or psychological well-being and health and so on. And also we can also detect if someone experience psychological adjustment through their emotions. If their emotions are free from emotional conflicts, that means they also experience psychological adjustment. Free of emotional conflicts, maybe they don't have for example, conflicting emotion. We can detect sometimes the emotions of someone from their behavior, from their attentions, from their focus, from their communication, and so on. Another way how to detect whether someone having or experiencing psychological adjustment or psychological well-being is by looking at their behavior or their how they bring themselves, whether they have when they perform the job, when they carry themselves, whether they have more autonomy, whether they show some maturity, whether they are independent, do not rely on others, and so on. So this can be an indication that the person experienced psychological adjustment. Another way to indicate whether someone experiences psychological adjustments by looking at the person, whether they have aspirations and a satisfactory capacity for work. So this is more related to employees. So if employees are being aspired or come up feeling satisfied with their work, so this considered as having psychological adjustment. And also if they have the employees or anyone who have good relationship with friends, with family, with partners, with society, for example, this consider also part of psychological adjustment. Other things that we can define whether someone is experiencing psychological adjustment by looking at whether they can cope or not satisfactorily with the daily requirements and in various life rules. Some people, they cannot cope with their life, with the day-to-day activities. they may affected, for example, with this kind of situations. Some people may be affected by this movement, restricted movement. So those who are affected by cannot cope their life or the way of the new routine activities. If you cannot cope satisfactorily, they, for example, may experience stress, anxiety, or just yelling at someone. Those are actually indicating that they are not cope satisfactory or very well with their daily requirements and different kind of life roles. So growth and positive psychologists believe that healthy or fully functioning people normally act rationally, openly, freely, and also balance in themselves and environment, and they set obtainable goal and be able and also active in developing their potential and become self-actualized. So if we want to say this definition here, more or less is also definitions in this indicating here, because according to one branch of psychology, growth and positive psychology, individuals who are healthy, that means psychological health, have experienced psychological well-being, they are healthy or fully functioning individual. They also act rationally, openly, and freely. So they could also balance themselves with the environments. They also set the goal. They active in becoming more in developing their potential. That means becoming better than they could be. Another positive psychology, or also known as positive wellness, is characterized by certain strength and virtue which people and institutions have or can develop. So according to positive psychology, wellness are normally characterized by certain strength and virtue which can be developed by people and institutions in order to be healthy, or persons in order to be healthy. Or person's subjective perception of being healthy, at least in terms of individual subjective perception of being healthy, they can normally this person characterized by strength and virtue. So if people behave based on the virtue or ethics, or have mental strength, mental strength, especially when we talk about psychology, then it's considered well, or experience psychological well-beings or psychological health. So Azibo, for example, this researcher indicate that mental health is a state of well-being. That means those who experience good mental health is also considered as experience psychological well-being, because it's related to psychological and behavior functioning. So if you're having good mental health, you do not feel anxious, you do not feel depressed, you do not feel stress, a very chronic stress, then you are psychologically and behaviorally functioning individual. So also when we talk about mental health, it's also talk about we are true to the original nature and creation of humankind and its need to survive. Because in human creations, we are being given tests and challenges in order to survive. So as a human nature, we have to face the threats, we have to face the challenge. So if we could be able to face to be able to succeed in this challenge, that means we could survive, then is considered fully functioning individual. So one of the way to be fully functioning individual is to have a good mental health. That's what it said. Mental health is important, is related to our original nature of a human being, and it is important for our survival.